Interesting thing came to mind. I recently ran into a client and got a big bear hug from him. This is a past client, sold this company many years ago, and I hadn't seen him in a long time either. I asked him how things were going, and he said, "Chris, I got to tell you, you gave me the best advice I've ever heard, and I never really had the opportunity to thank you." In our industry, you have to understand, we deal with a lot of professional people, and we're dealing with wealth advisors, we're dealing with CPAs, we're dealing with attorneys, we're dealing with bankers, and many of these people are very, very smart people. And one thing I guess that I've honed over the years without even realizing it is that I have a tendency to listen to good stuff and stick it somewhere in my brain, and the bad stuff doesn't stick quite so good. And so a client was talking to me one day, and he happened to own a C corporation. Now, I'm not going to get real technical about this, but the nuts and bolts of it is that a C corporation is taxed twice when you sell it. The corporation is taxed before what's left after the taxation to the corporation is given to the owner. So I had an owner who happened to be a minister, and he said to me, "Boy, I wish there was some way I could give my money to the church instead of the U.S. government." And I said to him, "Well, Bob, there is something known as a CRT." And he said, "What the heck is a CRT?" And I said, I don't know an awful lot about it, but I was talking with a wealth management advisor the other day, and he was telling me about this tool that's called a Charitable Remainder Trust. And Charitable Remainder Trust, if I understand it correctly, is something that you can virtually set up a trust, name yourself as the administrator, pay yourself an administrative fee on an annual basis, and that fee can be six figures if you want it to be, and then anything that's left over after the expenses of the trust go to, or the remainder, if you will, go to the charity of your choice. And in this case, this minister gave it to his church. So he didn't pay the federal government any taxes that I'm aware of anyway, and that's why he was giving me this big hug. So one thing when you're talking to your M&A advisor is, don't just ask how many companies they've sold, but ask how much they know about avoiding the taxes that ultimately have to be paid because you've heard it before. Death and taxes.